A few years back, I was at the market, picking up a few things for the week. Some celery, a bunch of green onions, some ginger root. Spent about $12 on vegetables I knew I was going to go through in a few days and buy again. Every week, the same story. My neighbor, she's been keeping a kitchen garden for 30 years. She looked at what was in my bag and said, "Caleb, you're buying the same things twice." I didn't understand what she meant at first. She pointed at the green onions. "Those roots are still alive. You know that?" I didn't know that. I'd been cutting the greens, using them, and tossing the roots in the compost without a second thought. Every single time. What she showed me that afternoon changed how I think about the grocery store entirely. I stopped seeing the produce section as a place I buy food. I started seeing it as a place I buy planting material, and the food is the bonus. What I want to show you today are 15 common store-bought vegetables that carry enough life in them to grow again. Some of them will be producing food for you in less than a week. Some will take longer, but every single one of them costs you nothing beyond what you already paid at the checkout. Here's the principle behind all of this, and it's worth understanding clearly before we get into the list. A plant, any plant, doesn't want to die. It's been spending its entire life building energy, storing it in its roots, its rhizomes, its stem bases. When you cut that plant and bring it home from the store, that stored energy doesn't disappear. It's still in there, waiting. All the plant needs is a signal, a little water, a little light, and some stability, and it will try to grow again. Most of the vegetables sitting on produce shelves right now still have their root nodes, their growth points, or their seed stalk intact. The store doesn't remove those. They're just not visible unless you know what to look for. What I'm going to show you today is what to look for and what to do with each one. The setups are simple. Most of them start in a glass of water on a windowsill. Some graduate to soil. A few go straight into the ground and grow into something bigger than what you started with. None of this requires special tools. All of it can start in your kitchen today. My name's Caleb. I keep a half-acre plot behind the house, a mix of raised beds, some long ground rows for the things that need more room, and a small greenhouse I built from salvaged windows a few seasons back. But I want to be honest with you. A good chunk of what I've learned about regrowing started right in my kitchen, not in the garden. A windowsill, a few glass jars, a cutting board, and some vegetables I'd already bought. That's the thing I want you to understand today. You don't need a garden to do most of what I'm about to show you. A bright windowsill and a shallow dish of water will start almost every single item on this list. The garden comes later, for the ones that grow into something bigger. But the entry point is your kitchen counter. That's where all of this starts. I've been regrowing from store-bought produce seriously for about 4 years now. I track what works, what doesn't, and what's actually worth the effort, because some things that can technically regrow aren't worth your time in a real homestead kitchen. I've cut those from this list. Everything I'm showing you today is something I do myself, in my own kitchen and on my own plot, because it produces real food. All right. Let's go through the list. 15. Vegetables. 1. Green onions, scallions. This is the one that changes how people think, and I want to start here because it's the fastest proof that this whole idea works. Buy a bunch of green onions from the store, cut the green tops off to use however you like, and drop the white root ends into a glass with about an inch of water. Set it on a windowsill with decent light. In 4 to 5 days, you'll have fresh green onions again. Not a hint of them. Actual full green onions, ready to cut. I've been running a continuous jar of green onions in my kitchen window for over 2 years. I refill it when the roots start to look exhausted, which takes about 6 to 8 cutting cycles, and then I grab a fresh bunch from the market and start again. I have not paid for green onions in 2 years. Keep the water fresh. Change it every 2 to 3 days, and keep the glass clean. That's it. 2. Celery. Cut the celery stalks off, leaving about 2 inches of the base intact. Place that base cut side up, in a shallow dish, with just enough water to cover the bottom half-inch. Not deep, just damp. Set it somewhere bright. Within a week, you'll see new growth emerging from the center of the base, pale green, reaching upward. Let it grow for another week in water, then transfer it to a pot of soil or directly into the garden. The base regrow gives you celery leaves and inner stalks first. Those leaves are fully edible and have a stronger, more concentrated flavor than the outer stalks. Excellent in soups and stocks. 3. Romaine lettuce. Same principle as celery. Cut the leaves off, leaving the base intact, about 2 inches up from the bottom. Place it in a shallow dish of water, cut side up. Change the water every couple of days. New leaves will emerge from the center within 5 to 7 days. They'll be smaller than the original head, but they're real lettuce leaves, and they'll keep coming for a few weeks if you maintain the water. For a stronger regrow, transplant the base into soil once roots develop. The same method works for butter lettuce, leaf lettuce, and most other headed varieties. 4. Bok choy, Napa cabbage. Bok choy is one of the most responsive regrows I've tried. It surprises people with how fast it moves. Cut the leaves away and leave 2 to 3 inches of the base. Place it cut side up in a shallow dish of water. Within 3 to 4 days, you'll have new growth emerging from the center, bright green and vigorous. Let it go for a week to 10 days in water, then plant it in soil. It will produce a new full head over the following weeks. Napa cabbage responds similarly, though it takes a bit longer to develop the full head. This one is worth moving to soil if you want a meaningful harvest. 5. Onions. Cut the very bottom of a store-bought onion, just a half-inch, with the root nubs still attached. Place it root side down in a shallow dish with a thin layer of water. It will put out green shoots from the top within days. Those green shoots are onion greens, fully edible, similar to chives or scallion tops. You can harvest them continuously while the base keeps growing. For a full onion regrow, plant that rooted base directly in soil. It will produce a new onion over the course of a season. If your store-bought onion is already showing any green at the top, it's ready to go right now. 6. Garlic. A garlic clove left in a glass of water will sprout green shoots within days. Those shoots, garlic greens, taste like mild garlic and can be used anywhere you'd use chives or scallion tops. For a full garlic regrow, plant individual cloves root side down in soil, about 2 inches deep. They'll produce full garlic bulbs over the season. A single head of garlic you bought for $2 at the market can become 10 or 12 new plants if you separate and plant each clove. Garlic planted in fall in most climates will overwinter and produce full heads the following summer. That's the most productive way to grow it. 7. Ginger. Buy a piece of ginger root from the produce section. The more knobs and nodes on it, the better. Soak it in water overnight, then plant it horizontally in a wide, shallow pot with good drainage, about 1 inch below the surface. Keep it warm and in indirect light. New shoots will emerge within 2 to 3 weeks. Ginger grows slowly, but rewards patience. You can harvest small pieces of the rhizome from the edges after about 8 to 10 months, leaving the center intact to keep growing. A $2 piece of ginger from the store, properly planted, will keep producing for years. I have a ginger pot that's been going for 3 seasons. 8. Lemongrass. Lemongrass stalks from the Asian grocery or produce section will regrow readily if the base is still intact. Place them in a tall glass of water with the bottom inch submerged. Set it in a bright spot. Within 2 weeks, you'll see white roots forming at the base and new green growth from the top. Once the roots are a few inches long, plant the stalks in a pot of soil or in the garden. Lemongrass grows into large, beautiful clumps. One store-bought stalk can become a substantial plant over a single growing season. In warm climates, it's perennial. In cold climates, bring it indoors over winter. One purchase, years of harvests. 9. Sweet potatoes. This one takes a bit more setup, but it's one of the most productive regrows in this video. Take a sweet potato and suspend it halfway in a jar of water, using toothpicks pushed into its sides to rest on the rim. Keep the bottom half in water and the top half in air. Within 2 to 3 weeks, it will sprout slips, small leafy shoots growing from the top. Once those slips are 4 to 6 inches long, twist them off carefully and place them in a separate glass of water to develop roots. Once rooted, plant them in the garden. A single store-bought sweet potato can give you 6 to 10 slips, and each slip becomes a full sweet potato plant. That's potentially 60 to 100 pounds of sweet potatoes from one grocery store purchase. 10. Potatoes. Any potato that has started to sprout, those small white or purple eyes, is ready to plant. Cut the potato into sections, making sure each piece has at least 1 or 2 eyes. Let the cut pieces sit out for a day to dry and callus over the cut surface. This prevents rot in the ground. Plant them about 4 inches deep with the eyes facing up. They'll produce full potato plants and a good harvest. One note: avoid potatoes treated with sprout inhibitors. If your potatoes have been sitting a while and are already sprouting on their own, those are your best candidates. Organic potatoes are the safest bet, least likely to be treated. 11. Carrot tops. This one's a greens regrow, not a root regrow, and I want to be clear about that up front. You're not going to get a new carrot from the top of a store-bought carrot, but the greens are a different story. Cut the top inch of a carrot, including the green stub where the leaves were. Place it cut side down in a shallow dish of water. Within a week, lush green carrot tops will grow from the center. Those tops are edible, similar to parsley in flavor, and can be used in salads as a garnish or blended into a pesto. A windowsill dish of carrot tops costs nothing and produces something real from a part of the vegetable most people throw directly in the bin. 12. Beet tops. Same concept as carrot tops. Slice off the top inch of a store-bought beet, including the stem stub. Place it cut side down in a shallow dish of water, or lay it directly onto damp soil in a small pot. Beet greens will emerge from the center within a week. Those greens are genuinely excellent eating, mild, tender, and nutritious. Sauté them with a little butter and salt, exactly the way you'd treat spinach. If you plant the beet top in soil, it will continue providing greens for several weeks. It won't produce a new full beetroot, but the greens are a real harvest from what would otherwise go straight to compost. 13. Basil. Cut a 4 to 6 inch stem from a fresh bunch of basil, a stem that still has leaves on it. Remove the lower leaves, leaving just the top cluster. Place the bare stem section in a glass of water, in a bright window, keeping the leaves out of the water. Within 1 to 2 weeks, roots will form at the base of the stem. Once they're an inch or 2 long, plant it in a small pot of soil. A $5 bunch of fresh basil from the store can yield 4 to 6 cuttings. Each cutting becomes a plant. By end of summer, you can have more basil than you know what to do with, and you'll never buy fresh basil again. 14. Fennel. Fennel is one of the more underrated regrows on this list. Cut the fennel bulb from the store, leaving the base intact, about 2 inches of it, including the root end. Place it in a shallow dish of water, cut side up. New feathery fronds will emerge from the center within 5 to 7 days. Those anise-scented greens are excellent with fish, in salads, or as a garnish. Once rooted, transplant to soil. It will produce a new fennel bulb over the season. Fennel is a heavy feeder, so give it good compost if you want the bulb to develop fully. The greens alone are worth doing, even if you never bother with the bulb. 15. Pineapple crown. This one takes patience, but it's one of the most satisfying regrows I know, and people never fail to ask about it when they see it on my counter. Buy a fresh pineapple, use the fruit, and instead of throwing away the crown, grip it firmly and twist it off the top. Strip away the bottom 2 to 3 rows of leaves from the crown to expose the stem. Let it sit cut side up for 2 to 3 days to dry and callus over. Then place it in a glass of water, just the base, not the leaves, and wait. Roots will form over 2 to 4 weeks. Plant it in well-draining soil, in a sunny spot, or a large pot. A pineapple plant takes 18 months to 3 years to produce fruit, but when it does, you've grown a full pineapple from what would have been a grocery store discard. I keep mine in a large pot and bring it inside over winter. It's one of the most commented on plants I've got, without question. One quick thing before we get to the numbers. If you want a weekly note from me about what's actually happening in my kitchen garden, what's producing, what's not, and what I'm experimenting with that week, I put out a short weekly note for people who sign up. The link's in the description if that sounds useful to you. All right, let's talk about what this is actually worth. Let me put some honest numbers around this, because I think they're worth knowing. The average household spends somewhere between $150 and $200 a month on produce. A meaningful portion of that is on repeat items: green onions, fresh herbs, celery, lettuce, things bought week after week, used and replaced. Just the 5 easiest windowsill regrows from today's list: green onions, celery, romaine, basil, and onion tops are items most households buy regularly. If you're buying a bunch of green onions every 2 weeks, that's around $50 a year on green onions alone. Fresh basil every time you need it might be $30 to $40 a year. Running a continuous green onion jar on my windowsill costs me nothing after the initial bunch. The same window I was already heating, the same water, the green onions are just there. Across the 5 quick windowsill regrows, most households could realistically save $80 to $120 a year. That sounds modest, until you think about the longer list. If you plant out the sweet potato slips from a single $3 sweet potato and grow them to harvest, you've replaced $60 to $100 worth of sweet potatoes from a $3 investment. The ginger, the garlic from cloves, the lemongrass, those multiply. One purchase, multiple plants, multiple seasons. I'm not suggesting this replaces your grocery bill. I am suggesting it puts a real dent in the part of it that was always replaceable to begin with. Here's what I'd like you to do this week. Look at whatever produce you already have in your kitchen right now. Green onions, roots are going in water today. Celery, base goes in a shallow dish. Got a sweet potato that's been sitting in the back of the cabinet and starting to sprout. That one's going in a jar right now. You don't have to do all 15 at once. Start with whatever you already have. The one thing I'd ask is that you note the date you start each one. A small piece of tape on the jar and a marker is all it takes. It helps you track what's working and when. After a season of this, you'll have a clear picture of what's worth continuing for your particular space and light situation. One question I'd love for you to answer in the comments: which one of these 15 are you trying first? Or, if you've already been doing this, and you've got a method I didn't cover, I want to hear it. Some of the most useful things I know about kitchen growing have come from comments right here, from people who'd been quietly doing this for years. Now, if this was useful to you, I'm going to ask for 3 things before you leave, and I want to be straight with you about why each one matters. Hit the like button. Every time you do that, the algorithm shows this video to someone else who could use it. Someone who's been tossing celery bases in the bin for 20 years and doesn't know they've been throwing money away. That like button is the reason new people find this channel, and I mean that genuinely. Subscribe if you haven't already, and please turn on the notification bell. Without it, YouTube won't tell you when the next video is up, and I put these out on a regular schedule. Don't let the algorithm bury something you'd actually want to watch, and leave a comment. Not just which vegetable you're trying first, though I want to know that, but anything you're wondering about that I didn't cover. I read every comment on this channel, and I answer what I can. Your questions shape what I make next. Next time, I'm walking through everything I know about starting seeds from store-bought tomatoes and peppers, because the seeds inside your grocery store produce are often fully viable, and most people have no idea. That one's coming up. I'll see you in the garden.